When you pick up your phone and call your friends, or your family, or a client, you're making a connection. When you open up your favorite messaging app, or check your feed to see what everyone else is up to, you experience a sensation which maybe feels good, or maybe it doesn't. But these emotional responses are a byproduct of the apps you use and the way that they make you feel. But behind these apps are lines and lines of code written by computer programmers who can write in multiple computer languages, and they develop the front-end displays that you become so familiar with that you see sometimes every day and even multiple times a day. Today, my guest is Sigourney Juno, also known as Siggy. She is a software engineer at Voyager, working in the voice tribe. Siggy has the uncanny ability to see the logic in almost everything, not just lines of code, but real tangible things like coffee machines and even drones. She is able to pull something apart, figure out what it does or what it should do, and put it all together in a way that is practical for someone to use. Despite being buried under machinery parts or lines of code, she very clearly understands the need that customers have. As we'll find out, the job is not without its challenges, but every day, Siggy does what few others can do. And today, I find out her story. I wanted to start off with really just a day in the life of a developer. Give us an insight into what a day in your life looks like.
So normally in the morning I come into work and then I'll check my Teams and I'll check my Messenger and make sure that there's nothing really important that I need to deal with before the first meeting of the day. And then we have what's called a stand-up, which is where all the sort of development-focused people in our tribe, like the Scrum Master, engineers, sometimes product owner, and all the developers, and if there's any testers, then that too. We all have a meeting where we just go around and basically say what we did yesterday, what we're going to do today, and we talk about any problems we may have, and then we arrange meetings to happen after the stand-up to address those problems with specific people. After the meeting, I either normally continue on with the task I was doing the previous day, or I'll take a task off the board if it be a defect or a feature, or if I'm not sure, I'll talk to my Logan, my Scrum Master, or John, the architect, and I'll ask them what is the highest priority, because more often than not, it's not the thing that's at the top of the log.
Right, and you might be dealing with quite a few tasks or quite a few work items, right?
Yeah, I often have to pause halfway through something and drop something because something's happened somewhere else in the company, or there's an issue that needs dealing with right away. You always have to reevaluate what's the highest priority because it's constantly changing. But yeah, with a specific task, I normally, after checking the requirements with the appropriate people, I write the code, write any testing that's appropriate, and then I'll recruit another software developer, either from my tribe or from another tribe. I often try to get developers from other tribes so that more people are aware of the work that's happening around.
And
then we
why
do
is
it.
that? Sorry to stop you. Why would you want that? Why would you want other members from other tribes to be aware of what's going on?
So that we don't end up with silos between tribes where there's a set of, say if there's a project and I'm the only person that knows anything about it, that's probably a bad thing because I could get hit by a bus, and that did actually happen once. So.
Oh, what? Are you really? My God, what happened there?
Yes. About 8 years ago, I was tour biking in rural area outside of Christchurch, coming from towards the Southern Alps in the middle of the night, and a bus knocked me out from behind at 80 Ks.
Oh my God.
I broke so many bones that they decided not to bother checking if I had broken any more.
Oh, boy.
And so it was like a month in hospital, and then 6 months getting better. But everything's fine now. I just have some metal in places.
I'm glad to hear everything's fine. But you're exactly right.
So you don't want developers to get hit by a bus.
No.
So it's important to make sure other people know what you work on and how you fix it.
So then you involve other members from the other developers from other tribes with the work. Tell me then, as you're writing the code, you mentioned also testing. Can you talk a little bit about the importance of testing, or is it important, and what does that entail?
Yeah, it's very important. Well, because, if you put it out, depending on the system, it may affect it may just affect people in the office, or it may affect, like, customers. And I work with voice. And I often work with the infrastructure that supports that stuff. So,
right.
Especially when it's something we know will affect customers, a lot of testing goes into it. And when we have different steps of environments, like we have a testing environment, then we have staging environments, and then only then would we go to production, and we have to pick an appropriate time. Like, depending on the system, that time maybe is, say, a Saturday, when less people are likely to be using the thing that will be upgraded.
Right. And so it's got the least impact.
Yeah. The time when there's the least impact.
Right.
And when we know people are available to make sure it's still working.
And so tell me what are some of the best practices that you've found when you're writing code? I mean, I know nothing about code or programming, but what would you say is some of what you try and achieve and strive for when you're writing code?
Most of all, normally trying to make sure things are clear. You can make something really fancy, but if you'd come back in a few weeks and you can't remember what it did, it's not very helpful to anybody. And then it's going to be worse for someone else. So I like to put in comments, and if I'm not sure of the approach I've taken to something, I'll ask another developer. I'll give them the details of the problem, and then I'll ask them, how would you fix this? Do you think this is good? What would you change? Oh, and comments.
Right. So you
comments
have that. So it feels like it's a very collaborative process.
Yeah. Once it gets complicated, it is. If it's simple, I mean, not necessarily much point, but once it goes beyond something relatively basic, then it's definitely important to have other people across it, because what seems clear to me doesn't necessarily seem clear to someone else, and the same with other people. What seems clear to them doesn't necessarily seem clear to me.
Exactly. And how easy is it to slip into something that can become very complicated?
Above a point where you have to stop and think about what you're doing. A developer would understand. I joke, if you have more than 2 loops inside each other, then you probably need to start asking questions, because that may be the right thing to do. Often there's ways around it that would make the code clearer, and that's where it's important. Or worse, 3 loops. And at that point, you really need to talk to another developer and say, am I doing this well, or is there a way you think we could make this simpler? And there often is.
Right. And so the more loops, the more complicated it can become.
Yeah, for example. Or there's things like, we have a thing called if statements, which is do this or that. If you have many of those and your code, each one of those normally comes with an indent, so the code gets one more tab away from the side of the page. There's also a good measure. Once you've got a few levels deep in the actual visual look of the code, then you know it's probably something needs to change.
So, from a complete layman over here, that's me. What computer languages do you write in?
Too many. Well, in work, I'm often using PHP, C#. In the front end, we use JavaScript. We have some old projects that run Node, different things in my own time. For example, I've never really used PHP in my own time. I like to work with C and C++ and embedded systems development. Now, recently, I've been working on a website just for myself.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, and that's been with C# and with a JavaScript front end.
Yeah. And so what kind of things do you like to do when you're just working on your own personal projects?
There has to be something interesting that I actually want to do. I don't normally code just for the sake of coding. Like, it has to be interesting.
So what kind of... I mean, I know from your avatar, you have a big purple pony. Tell me about that. What are you... I mean, your love of ponies, I guess.
I don't know. Horses are my favorite animal. I admit I basically never watched My Little Pony.
No?
I can't deal with it.
Wait.
It
You have so many ponies, but you can't deal with watching My Little Pony.
Well, it's like they have narratives where they're basically teaching children values. And it's cringy.
Oh, yeah. Tell me about it.
And I just can't deal with it. I mean, I've watched maybe I've watched 1 or 2 episodes, but often it devolves into some message of how you should be nice to other people. And you should, but it just gets cringy.
But you definitely love the animal, the pony. But
yeah.
But also there's a bit of fantasy there.
Cows too.
Cows?
Yeah, well, they're cute. But yeah, so I have a big collection of like horse figurines and like My Little Ponies. At one point I was buying them from Hong Kong because in Hong Kong they have more different types.
And which is your favorite type if you had to choose one?
I don't know. I've never actually thought about that. Well, I obviously like the purple one. That's my picture.
So I want to talk about something else that you kind of have an interest in, and that seems to be fixing stuff. Maybe more specifically, I've seen you fix some coffee machines. Maybe tell me about what sort of got you into that. Are you into the electronic side of it, or the you know?
I guess I just find it interesting, like figuring out how things work, and I enjoy basically taking things apart and fixing them. Yeah, so taking apart something like a coffee machine, if you just take it apart, you're never going to put it back together. I basically take like 30 or 40 photos of every single step, and you basically document where every single screw came from and label everything. And often inside those machines, all the wires are the same color, even though if you put the wrong ones in the wrong place, it probably will blow up.
And have you found that out the hard way?
Not with electricity. Once I accidentally connected some steam hoses in an espresso machine in reverse. But obviously there's safe ways to test these things which involve being not near them. And nothing bad happened. When I turned the switch and what I didn't expect to happen happened, but specifically nothing happened. Well, then I obviously cut the power.
Right.
And from a safe distance, turned the valve the other way, which unlocked the system, which basically made a massive roar of steam come out of the valve in a way that would have probably certainly burnt someone if they were right next to it. But that's why you have to be careful working with espresso machines, because hot steam is dangerous.
I'm interested, what made you decide to, break one open and have a look, under the hood?
I basically will take apart and fix anything.
Anything?
Anything interesting. I don't know. One day I was walking through a second-hand shop and I saw an espresso machine for $10. I don't even really like coffee that much.
How do you find when you're working on these, things, these machines or whatever it may be, because you're also dealing with software in your day-to-day job? How do you balance the two or marry the two, or does one inform the other?
I guess the problem-solving process probably informs itself, but you're right. It takes a lot of time to rebuild an espresso machine safely while taking the appropriate measures. There's a reason people throw them out and buy new machines, because even if you paid someone at minimum wage, it's not cost effective to repair those machines at all. But basically it was over last Christmas, so I had a few weeks off, and my first one, I worked on it for about 5 days with little sleep. Basically just focusing on that the whole time. And then I went back and got another one, and then another one. And by the time I came back to work, I had fixed 5.
And what do you do with them after you fix them?
One of them I sold, but not so much sold. I definitely didn't make money, but I did sell one to my Scrum Master. He got a very good deal, 1/10 the original price. So,
wow, that is a good deal. These machines, I think that the products they're coming out with now, they're so closed, and once it stops working, you're right, it's more cost effective to buy a whole new one than to fix it. So this is a passion project, I guess. You're more excited about pulling it apart, understanding it, problem solving, and putting it back together than you are trying to turn a profit.
You wouldn't become rich fixing espresso machines.
You mentioned just before we started taping that you had drone you found on the side of the road. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah. So I like to pick up things just off the side of a road when people put them in a free bin. That includes things like coffee machines, toaster ovens, all sorts of stuff. A few months ago, on my way home from work, I found a drone. Not an expensive one. Well, I think it was $80 off AliExpress. But so I got it, took it home, took it apart, didn't find anything wrong with it, put it back together, found out that it works not very well. It's very hard to control, and after about 15 seconds it just loses it, and one of its rotors goes full bore and it just cartwheels and smacks into the ground. So I obviously brought it to work to fly around the office. Well,
of course.
Yeah, give people's hair a bit of a haircut when they're not expecting it.
And maybe freak some people out.
Yeah, basically just flying around the office when I'm not working, obviously.
Yeah.
When you're meant to be working, you're meant to be working, but there's always Friday afternoons.
Drone Fridays. Well, what do you find that really works well, working within the tribe?
Yeah, so my tribe is the voice tribe. So we support Voyager's voice infrastructure. The reason I like working in a tribe is, before tribes, I would only ever work with developers, really. But now with tribes, every day, obviously I'm my Scrum Master, but I work really closely with John, who is the voice architect, and the team of voice engineers we have. I work closely with him, and I think in a way it's like we are, the tribe is almost like a family.
That's nice.
Like we have in jokes, which won't be recited here, but you know,
what stays in the tribe? What stays in the tribe stays.
What happens in the stand-up stays in the stand-up. No, but no, I think it's good because, you know, often when you're trying to get someone outside of a tribe, depending, they might want you to wait, say, 2 weeks or longer to get something from them. But in the tribe, you know, everybody has the same objective. And so if you need help with something, unless it's critical, people can generally stop what they're doing and help you. And the same, like, in a day, I'll be working on one of my tasks, one of a few different bits of code I'm working on. And, you know, like when you contacted me to ask me to do an interview, so you're not in the tribe, so, you know, I almost didn't respond. No, just kidding.
I'm so glad you did, though.
But, you know, they'll just send me a message and, you know, like, hello, and I'll be like, what do you want?
You just anticipate that question coming, don't you?
You get the hello with almost like you can see the ... on the end of it. But it's fine because, you know, people come to you when they have a problem and you help them with the problem. And when I have a problem, obviously I can send them hello, whatever. It's always nice when someone tells you what they want in the first sentence, though. But, like, to be fair, I don't actually get angry with people for just sending hello, because they'll send hello and I'll send them a what do you want gif, and they will send me a something gif, and then eventually depending on how important it is, that won't happen. But yeah, it is good to help collaborate with other people, and I can help them solve their problems quickly, and they can help me solve my problems quickly. And if we need to, we can pull multiple people into one meeting or have a video call.
Given that sense of collaboration, working within the tribe with other members like engineers that, you know, outside of the software development team, how do you see the future of development given where we are today?
The future will definitely be interesting. We are in the process of moving away from kind of like, I guess what you would call sort of like legacy. Well, every company has legacy things. Yeah. But more recently, there's been more of a sort of like drawing a line in the sand and kind of like, this is the way things were, the legacy systems, and then we have where we want to be, which is, for example, changing technologies from PHP to the Microsoft world, C#.NET. That's something that's currently happening. I mean, it doesn't happen terribly fast because you can't just, you still have to support your customers, so you can't just make that shift and drop everything, because we don't have infinite people and we don't have infinite time. So
exactly,
like, a lot of my time is spent supporting the older systems and making sure that the customers get what they need now. And then there's still time that's spent on the stuff that we know they're going to want, but they may not know they want it yet. That's like the future. People want new things, but more than new things, they want the things they have to work. So no one wants a new car. Well, okay, that's not a good thing. If your car's broken, you want a new car. But I guess maybe if someone's car's broken, they want a new car, they don't want a rocket ship. The rocket ship may be the future, but they don't care. They need their car fixed. Or fixing versus a new car. People may not want a new car, they want the car they have to work. That sort of thing. And in the future, when we have something really good that we've been working on while doing that balancing, then that's really good for the customer, because suddenly they have something that they didn't necessarily know was coming, but might, revolutionize how the way they do something. And then everyone's very happy.
Just to wrap up here, if there was anyone out there listening who wanted to get into becoming a developer and start programming themselves, what advice would you have for them?
Complicated question, because different people like different things. I would tell them that, you can start small. It doesn't, you don't have to start big or want to do something massive. I think the first code I ever wrote, I think I was probably 13 or 14, and I wrote it on a piece of paper because I didn't own a computer. And we found a book at a junk shop that told you how to code. And probably for the first year, I was just writing code on paper. It wasn't until I found out that I could run it on my dad's work computer that I actually got to run my code and find out none of it worked. But it's a learning process. But you have to make sure you're doing things that interest you and that are fun. Because if it's not fun and not interesting, well, there's really no point in doing it. So,
exactly.
Yeah, starting small and working up.
Siggy, thank you so much. I've had a lot of fun with you today on the podcast, and I really appreciate you being here.
It was nice talking to you.
That's it for another episode in our Agile series. The Growth Podcast is a production from Voyager Internet. The show was produced, edited, and mixed by me. Transcription by Josh Yates. Special thanks to my guest, Siggy. If you enjoyed this episode and would like to hear more, follow us on your podcast app. We release new episodes weekly. If you want to see Siggy's work, just talk to our sales team for a demo of any of our voice products. Siggy has helped to develop some really cool apps that will probably leave you hooked. If you'd rather get an incredible deal on a refurbished coffee machine from Siggy, just drop us a line at podcasts@voyager.nz. Until next time, peace.